I didn't realize someone had been inside my email until I got locked out of my own account. The password I'd used for 3 years suddenly didn't work. That's when I understood how long this had actually been going on. Let me start over. My name doesn't matter. I'm a graphic designer. I work from home most days. I live alone in a smaller city in the Midwest. Nothing about my life is particularly interesting or unusual. That's what I kept telling myself when this started. It began 6 months ago with a message on a freelance job board. Someone named Marcus had seen my portfolio and wanted to discuss a potential project, corporate branding for a startup. Standard stuff. The message was polite and professional. He included a link to a mood board he'd put together. I clicked it without thinking. The mood board was generic. Stock photos and color palettes. Nothing unusual. I replied with my rates and availability. He responded within an hour, asking questions about my process. Normal questions. We went back and forth a few times over the next week. Then the project just kind of faded. He stopped responding. It happens all the time in freelance work. People reach out, get quotes, then disappear. I didn't think about it again. 2 weeks later, I got another message from him on a completely different platform, a design community forum I barely used. He said he'd lost my contact information and wanted to reconnect about the project. He apologized for going quiet, said things had been hectic on his end. I should have wondered how he found me there. I should have asked why he didn't just use the original platform. But I didn't. I gave him my business email address this time, told him to reach out directly. He did. We scheduled a video call for the following Monday. The call never happened. He canceled an hour before, saying something came up. We rescheduled for Wednesday. He canceled again. After the third reschedule, I told him to reach out when he had a clearer timeline. I was annoyed but not suspicious. That's when the comments started. I posted a photo on my personal social media account, just a picture of my coffee and my desk setup. I rarely post anything personal, but I'd been feeling good about my workspace that day. It was a stupid, mundane photo. Marcus commented within minutes. He said something about recognizing the coffee shop cup in the background. He mentioned the name of the place. He was right. It was a local shop 2 blocks from my apartment. I laughed it off. The logo was visible in the photo. Anyone could have seen it. But then he mentioned the time of day. He said he'd been there that morning too. Said it was funny we might have been there at the same time. He described the barista who'd been working. He was right about that too. I felt something cold move through my chest. I scrolled back through his profile. There were no photos of him, no personal posts, just generic comments on design threads. His account was 2 years old but barely active. I didn't respond to his comment. I deleted the photo instead. He messaged me directly that night, asked if I was okay, said he hoped his comment hadn't been weird. He explained that he traveled to my city sometimes for work, said he was a regular at that coffee shop when he was in town. It sounded reasonable. I told myself I was overreacting. I didn't hear from him for almost 2 weeks after that. I started to forget about it. Then I posted something else, a photo of a book I was reading. I took the picture at the park near my apartment. You couldn't see anything identifying in the background, just grass and a bench. He commented again. This time he mentioned the park by name. I stared at that comment for a long time. There was nothing in the photo that showed where I was. No signs, no buildings, just an anonymous patch of green space. I went back through every photo I'd ever posted. I checked the metadata. I checked my privacy settings. Everything was locked down. Location services were off. I'd always been careful about that. I didn't respond to him. I didn't block him either. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see what would happen next. Maybe I was still convincing myself it was a coincidence. He sent another message 3 days later. It was casual, friendly. He asked if I'd thought any more about the project. He mentioned he'd secured funding and was ready to move forward. He offered a deposit. The amount was generous. I needed the work. That's what I told myself. I replied and said I was interested. We talked about timelines and deliverables. Everything seemed normal again. Professional. He asked if I wanted to meet in person to discuss the details. Said he'd be in town the following week. Suggested the coffee shop we'd apparently both been to. I said I preferred to work remotely. He didn't push it. He said he understood completely. The project moved forward. He sent me a brief and some initial materials. I started working on concepts. We communicated through email. His messages were always polite and detailed. He gave good feedback. He seemed like a legitimate client, but small things kept appearing in his messages. Little details that didn't make sense. He mentioned he liked the print shop I used for mock-ups. I'd never told him which print shop I used. He brought up a software update that had been causing me problems. I'd vented about it in a private group chat on a platform he shouldn't have had access to. I started taking screenshots of everything. I documented every strange comment and reference. I showed them to my friend Alicia. She told me I was being paranoid. She said maybe I'd mentioned those things in passing and forgotten. I didn't think I had, but I started doubting myself. Then my routine changed. I started going to a different coffee shop, one on the other side of town. I didn't post about it. I didn't mention it to anyone online. 3 days later, Marcus messaged me about a new project idea. He suggested we discuss it over coffee. He named the new shop. The one I'd just started going to. I felt my hands go numb. I asked him how he knew about that place. He said a mutual contact had recommended it. I asked who. He didn't answer directly. Just said he'd heard good things. I didn't have any mutual contacts with him. I'd checked weeks ago. Our networks didn't overlap anywhere I could find. I stopped going to that coffee shop. I stopped posting anything online. I changed my routine completely. I started working from different locations. I used a VPN. I went through every privacy setting on every platform I used. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. No messages, no comments, no strange references. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe he'd gotten bored. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Then I got a notification that someone had tried to log into my email from an unfamiliar device. The attempt was blocked, but it had come from my city. The notification showed an approximate location. It was less than a mile from my apartment. I changed my password immediately. I enabled every security feature I could find. I checked all my other accounts. Nothing else had been touched. I didn't hear from Marcus for another week. When he finally messaged me, it was like nothing had happened. He asked about the project timeline. He said he was excited to see the final concepts. I told him I couldn't continue working with him. I didn't give a reason. I just said I was withdrawing from the project. He asked if everything was all right. He said he'd been happy with my work. He offered to increase the budget if that was the issue. I didn't respond. I blocked him on every platform I could think of. That should have been the end of it. 2 days after I blocked him, I found a photo I didn't take in my cloud storage. It was a picture of my apartment building, taken from across the street. The angle showed my specific window. The metadata said it had been uploaded from my own account. I checked my account activity. There were no unfamiliar login locations, no unusual access patterns, but the photo was there. I deleted it. I changed every password again. I added two-factor authentication to everything. I called my internet provider and asked if there had been any unusual activity on my network. They said everything looked normal. I didn't sleep that night. I kept checking my phone, refreshing my accounts, looking for anything else that was wrong. In the morning, I found another photo. This one was taken inside a coffee shop, not one of my usual places, one I'd been to exactly once, 3 days earlier. The photo showed my laptop on the table, my jacket on the chair. You couldn't see me in the frame, but it was clearly my stuff. I hadn't taken that photo. I hadn't even noticed anyone taking photos near me that day. The metadata said it had been uploaded from my account. Again, I contacted the platform's support team. I explained what was happening. They said they'd investigate. They sent me a generic response about security best practices. Nothing changed. I started going back through months of photos in my storage, looking for anything else I didn't recognize. I found 4 more. All of them showed places I'd been. All of them were taken without my knowledge. All of them had been uploaded from my account. The earliest one was from 5 months ago, right around the time Marcus first messaged me. I went to the police. I brought printed screenshots. I explained everything. The officer listened. He took notes. He said what was happening was concerning, but there wasn't much they could do unless there was a direct threat or evidence of a crime being committed. He suggested I document everything and come back if things escalated. I asked what escalation looked like. He didn't really have an answer. I stopped using my laptop. I bought a new phone and only gave the number to 3 people. I stayed off social media completely. I worked from a library across town using their computers. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. I started to breathe again. I thought maybe the security changes had worked. Maybe he'd moved on. Then I got a message on the new phone from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "You didn't have to block me. I was just trying to help with your work." I didn't respond. I blocked the number. I changed my phone number again the next day. That night, I got an email from an address I'd never seen before. The subject line said, "I think you dropped this." The email contained a photo. It showed my wallet sitting on a table. I recognized the table. It was from the library I'd been working at. I checked my bag. My wallet was gone. I felt everything inside me go cold. I tried to remember when I'd last seen it. I'd had it that morning. I'd bought coffee on my way to the library. I put it back in my bag. Someone had taken it while I was working. Someone had taken a photo of it. Someone had emailed me that photo from an anonymous account. I canceled all my cards. I filed a report with the library. They checked their security footage. They said they'd get back to me. They never did. My wallet showed up in my mailbox 3 days later. Nothing was missing. All my cards were still there. My cash was still there. Everything was exactly as it had been. Except now there was a note inside, written on a small piece of paper in neat handwriting. It said, "You should be more careful." I packed 2 bags that night. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I stayed with Alicia for 4 days. I didn't use my laptop. I barely used my phone. I just existed in her spare room and tried to figure out what to do next. She believed me now. She saw how scared I was. She helped me research data breaches and stalking laws and security protocols. We made lists. We tried to trace back every piece of information I'd ever shared online. It was worse than I thought. Over the years, I'd posted hundreds of small details: the name of my favorite restaurant, the park I walked through on Saturdays, the gym I went to, the grocery store I preferred, my work schedule, my sleep schedule, my habits. None of it seemed dangerous on its own, but together it created a complete map of my life. And I'd made it public. I'd handed it over willingly. On the 5th day, Alicia's home security camera caught something. A car parked across the street, just sitting there. It stayed for 3 hours. Then it left. It came back the next day. Same car, same spot, different time. Alicia called the police. They drove by, but the car was gone by the time they arrived. They said there wasn't much they could do about someone parking on a public street. I left that night. I didn't tell Alicia where I was going. I didn't want to put her at risk anymore. I drove to a city 5 hours away. I paid cash for a motel room. I used a fake name. I didn't post anything. I didn't message anyone. I just disappeared. For 2 weeks I felt safe. I got a job washing dishes at a restaurant. I paid cash for everything. I stayed offline completely. Then I made a mistake. I needed to access my bank account. I'd been living off cash, but I was running low. I used the motel's Wi-Fi for just 5 minutes. I logged in, transferred money, and logged out. That night, someone knocked on my motel room door. I didn't answer. I stayed completely silent. I heard footsteps outside, walking back and forth. Then they stopped. In the morning, I found a piece of paper slid under my door. It said, "You can't hide from yourself." I checked out immediately. I drove to another city, then another. I moved 4 times in 3 weeks. Each time I thought I was safe. Each time something small would happen. A message from a blocked number. A photo uploaded to an old account. A note left somewhere I'd been. I realized he wasn't just tracking my location. He had access to things I couldn't lock down. Old accounts I'd forgotten about. Recovery emails connected to emails I'd abandoned. Cloud backups I didn't know existed. Every digital fingerprint I'd ever left was still out there. And he'd found all of them. I finally contacted a cybersecurity consultant. She charged me everything I had left. She spent 6 hours going through my entire digital history. She found breaches I didn't know had happened. She found vulnerabilities in things I thought were secure. She explained that once someone has enough information, they can answer security questions, reset passwords, and access accounts without needing to hack anything. They just need to know you well enough. And I'd told the internet everything about myself for years. She helped me lock down what she could. But she was honest with me. She said some things couldn't be undone. Some information couldn't be taken back. She said the best thing I could do was start over completely. I live in a different state now. I use a different name for most things. I work in a warehouse. I don't have social media. I don't post photos. I don't share details about my life with anyone I don't know in person. I still get messages sometimes. They find me through old accounts I can't fully delete, through platforms I didn't know I'd signed up for, through recovery emails connected to things I'd forgotten existed. The messages are usually short. Sometimes it's just a photo of a place I've been recently. Sometimes it's a simple greeting. Sometimes there's nothing but a timestamp showing they were there when I was. I don't respond anymore. I document everything and store it somewhere safe. But I know the police can't do anything unless there's a direct threat, and the messages are never threatening. They're just reminders. Reminders that someone is still watching, still keeping track, still there. I think about that first message a lot, the one from Marcus about the design project. How normal it seemed, how easy it was to respond, how natural the conversation felt. I think about all the small things I shared without thinking. The photos with visible landmarks, the posts about my schedule, the comments about where I like to go, the complaints about my internet provider, the mentions of my workout routine. None of it seemed important at the time, but someone collected it all. Someone pieced it together. Someone used it to build a complete picture of who I was and how I lived. The worst part is that I don't know who Marcus actually is. I don't know if that was ever his real name. I don't know what he wanted or why he chose me. I don't know if he's still actively watching or if it's automated now. Systems he set up months ago still checking on me through accounts I can't find. I don't know if I'll ever feel completely safe again. But I'm telling you this because I want you to think about what you've shared. Not just on social media, everywhere. Every platform you've ever signed up for, every form you filled out, every detail you've mentioned in passing. Think about who could be collecting that information. Think about what someone could do with all those small pieces put together. Think about how easy it would be for someone to find you if they really wanted to. I used to think privacy was about having something to hide. Now I understand it's about controlling who has access to your life. And I gave that control away one tiny piece at a time. You might be doing the same thing right now. You might have been doing it for years, and you might not realize it until it's too late. I still check my accounts sometimes, the ones I haven't been able to fully delete. I see the login attempts, different locations, different devices, always blocked by security features, but always trying. Someone is still out there, still looking for a way in, and I don't think they're ever going to stop.